Hi, I'm Scott Bartel, Professor of Environmental and Occupational Health and Statistics at University of California, Irvine. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about our UCI PFAS health study. PFAS, or per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, are a complex class of thousands of chemicals that include many subclasses, some of which are shown here in some examples. What these chemicals have in common is that they consist of carbon chains with fluorine substitutions for the hydrogens. And these CF bonds make for very stable chemistries. Also, many of these, you'll note, are hydrophobic at one end, hydrophilic at the other end. So they've been very useful in a variety of industrial and commercial applications because this gives them very helpful surfactant properties. So they've been used for manufacturing nonstick cookware, water and stain resistant clothing and carpeting, as well as firefighting foams. Unfortunately, as we've learned more about these chemicals, we've discovered that they can have a variety of systemic toxic effects. And here's a recent review and summary by the European Environmental Agency of various health effects that have been linked to PFAS exposures in animal and in human studies, with associations that have, in their judgment, more support from the literature in solid lines, and then those with fewer reports of associations or less consistent reports in dashed lines. Hydrologic units with detectable PFAS have been discovered around the country. There was no real systematic sampling and really hardly ever any investigation this prior to about 2013, 2015, when the EPA for the first time mandated one-time national testing of 6 PFAS chemicals in water supplies in the US. And at that time, we learned that actually there's quite a bit of this out in our drinking water supplies in this country. Other countries have been finding similar things as well. Water systems with detections are shown in blue in this map, and you can see that these actually do include Orange County, California, where UC Irvine is located. There are a variety of sources for PFAS in these water supplies, and this particular analysis looked at proximity to industrial sites, areas where PFAS-containing firefighting foams were likely to have been used, and also wastewater treatment plants. And it's this latter, the wastewater treatment plants, that we think are the primary source of groundwater contamination in Orange County. So recently, the CDC and ATSDR started a multi-site study at several locations around the country with known water contamination by PFAS to further evaluate the potential human health effects of these exposures. We put in a bid to become one of those sites that was accepted, and so Orange County and the other sites are listed here in the slides will be undergoing this study. We had hoped to actually start this about a year ago, but due to the pandemic, our clinical recruitment has been on hold. We're preparing, hopefully, to be able to do this fall or winter to actually start recruiting. But when we do that, we'll be recruiting about 1,000 adults and 300 children at our site. Every other site will be doing the same for clinical evaluation and measurement of PFAS biomarkers in blood and urine samples. We're using a shared core protocol for the clinical portion of the study, common IRB and centralized data management. But each site is responsible for performing its own local groundwater modeling and historical exposure reconstruction for each individual in the study. We've actually done this in previous studies of PFAS in West Virginia, Ohio, and have an experienced team that's going to be working on this. We're doing some other site-specific activities that are not shared across the sites that we proposed independently. One of those is prospective follow-up of 100 children aged 4 to 6 for frequency of symptoms of respiratory infection, which is one of the outcomes that is of concern due to immunotoxicity of PFAS. And seeing if those are related, those responses to PFAS concentrations in newborn blood spots, which have been collected in California and stored since about 2000, as well as modeled postnatal PFAS exposures from historical contamination of the drinking water. That part of the study is currently under IRB review, but we're hopeful we'll be able to kind of move forward with that in the next 6 months or so. We're also working on refining pharmacokinetic models for PFAS in humans. We've done previous work in this area, as well as developing formal Bayesian statistical methods for pharmacokinetic calibration of historical exposure estimates using measured biomarkers. We're also working with community partners and local water providers to share PFAS information and eventually study results with the public. This is a large effort, not just my research group, but a number of others that we partnered with around campus, including other units in public health and environmental engineering. These are just some of the individuals working on this project from the UCI team. Thank you.